Ooh, with just under a month to go until Season 11 ends, no doubt you are frothing for whatever LP you can get. And in this video, the Jizz is going to help you out because I will be giving you 14 champions to play in the Bronze to Platinum rank range. I will also give you the runes, core items, and a tip to help you master these picks. And the thing these guys have in common is that they are very hard to play against and beat. So put your feet up, grab a cold one, and listen to the Jizz. Now in my challenger days, guys, the most annoying, frustrating, pull your hair out champion I came up against was Kha'Zix, and it wasn't even close. Put someone good on this champion and your game will get bug splat. His early game might not be the strongest, but once you hit level 6 and you get to those mid-game spikes, you become one of the best carry champions in League of Legends. Just remember that your clear isn't really the best, especially against multiple jungle camps like wolves, raptors, and krugs, so you have to protect yourself by warding your second buff so you don't get invaded and cheesed. But once you hit level 3 and level 4, you should be good to go. Now in terms of your items, you actually have two setups you can go, but in both of these setups, you really want to be rushing Youmuu's Ghostblade. Ever since Riot gave this 15 ability haze, it's been the go-to first item for pretty much every AD assassin in the game, and then you can follow this with either an Eclipse or Gore Drinker. Now Gore Drinker is great when you pair it with this rune page with Conqueror, and you would really want to be running this page when you're up against a jungler who is a bruiser, long extended fighting champion, so Olaf or Hecarim for example. If you're against a squishier champion, then this is where Eclipse's lethality really comes into play, so if you're up against an Evelynn or a Taliyah, and if you do go Eclipse, you'd want to be pairing this with this rune page, and then you have the question of what do you actually evolve first. Now one of the most consistent evolutions is to evolve your ultimate first, followed by your W and then your E. Now this would work in pretty much every game, but if you are against a team composition that is very short range, evolving your Q first is going to give you the most reward, followed by your W and then your E. So Kha'Zix is definitely one of the best low elo junglers, guys, because invading and actual counter jungling doesn't really exist, and he's also pretty easy to play and hard to play against for how much damage he deals and how much carry potential he has. Now we're going to stay in the jungle, guys, for the next two carry champions. Now one of these is Taliyah, who a couple of patches ago was by far the best jungler in the game, and despite a nerf to her Q and her clear speed, she is still one of the premier junglers. She has good clear speed, she has good gank, she has good skirmishing ability, and she also has very good scaling and good itemization. So there's not really much not to like, but a bit like Kha'Zix, your early game is a little weak because your cooldowns are pretty long, so you might get invaded by aggressive early game junglers, so just be sure to ward your second buff and stay safe until level 3. But once you hit level 3, guys, and start roaming around the map with the passive, the movement speed, you can be the most oppressive jungler on the entire Rift. And we're going to make use of this movement speed, guys, in your runes as well, because we're going to be running water walking in our secondary tree, and make sure you're taking one attack speed rune in your minor runes as well. This is important just to help with your clear and your skirmishing ability, because most junglers you go against are going to be melee, so auto attacking them is actually going to be a lot of your early game damage. Now your items are very standard, of course, with sorcery shoes as your preferable first buy, and then follow this up with Eluden's Tempest, Zhonya's Hourglass, and Voice Staff, and you are ready to dominate. But do remember, guys, when you play Taliyah, to hold on to your E. This is really the only form of peel you have, so if you use this too liberally or in the wrong way, you open yourself up to the enemy champions. So holding on to this exerts a lot of pressure and will keep you safe. Now the last jungler, guys, is one of the best carry champions in League of Legends for next patch. This is Nocturne, and Nocturne in the jungle is honestly flying under the radar, and that's because he got nerfed so hard for lane that lots of people have actually forgot how good he is in the jungle. He still has very good clear, and though his ganks might not be the best until level 6, remember, Scuttle Crab is the most important thing, so when you're dueling the enemy jungler, you still have that dueling potential to win these fights and snowball off of this. And also the fact that your E still has a really big tether range makes you a really big threat throughout a game, and your combination with Stridebreaker, even though lots of champions aren't building this mythic anymore, Nocturne's synergy with this item is actually still right at the top, because paired with your ultimate, as soon as you go in and you slow those champions around you, you can have a really big impact. But make sure you pair this with cooldown boots, then Serious Gauge, and then preferably Guardian's Angel. Now we're going to move to the top lane, guys, and I'm going to give you 4 champions that are some of the best carry champs in lower elo. Now the first of these, who would have guessed, is Darius. And the fact that Riot buffed your W, so it's now on a flat 5-second cooldown a few patches ago, this is still in the game, and he's going to be really broken for another 2 weeks. It gives you one of the strongest level 1s, so all you have to do is track down your opponent before the minions even get to your lane, and it's already over. Now in terms of your runes and your core items, these are very standard, but next patch, in terms of your mythic in particular, this is certainly going to see a bit of diversity, because Gore Drinker is getting nerfed, is Stridebreaker going to come back, is Trinity Force going to be the best? We'll have to wait and see, but following any of these up with Steris Gauge and their Dead Man's Plate, easy pickings. But when you do play Darius in the top lane, guys, remember that your W is going to reset your auto attack. So after you auto attack and you press W instantly, you can then auto attack again straight away. This is really important for your trading potential and also to sack your Congress, so make sure you are aware of this and actually use this when you're fighting your opponent. Now another champion who is amazing at dueling, perhaps not as early in the game as Darius, but especially in the mid to late game, this is Camille. And Camille is one of those champions where even if you farm terribly, you can still dominate a game because all you really need is cooldown boots and Divine Sundra. And in 11.21, because Camille isn't nerfed, Divine Sundra isn't nerfed, and cooldown boots, they're not getting nerfed either, she is still going to be in a really good spot. But it's important to understand, guys, that with this outfit, Sheen, the Spellblade passive from Divine Sunderer, this procs off your Q, so be very aware of this. This is going to allow you to deal an insane amount of damage. And as you copy down the rune page you want for Camille, it's also important to understand that yes, your early game is not the strongest. So don't feel as if you have to hookshot your way into the enemy champion at level 2 or level 3. Just chill. Save your hookshot in case you get ganked or in case your jungler is actually ganking, and play safe and around your cooldowns. Also, playing around your Grasp of the Undying is a great idea too, and you'll be sweet. Now, a champion who is even more late game oriented than Camille, this is Nasus. Now, I will say this about Nasus: if you pick him into a Darius, into a strong early game champion, the likelihood is that you're not going to get to the late game. So here's the thing, guys. When you're in champs late, don't just blind pick Nasus hoping the enemy team won't pick someone who counters you. Really, you want to pick Nasus into a top laner who is going to give you a free lane. So someone who isn't that scary and can't bully you out of it in the first 9 levels, let's say. Because at this point, this is the real turning point. Once you get 5 points in your queue and you have that on a really low cooldown, it becomes so easy to farm and actually scale. And just like Camille, you'll be taking Sheen into Divine Sunderer. And you also want to be going cooldown boots. I know it sounds a little weird, why not steel caps or merc treads? But cooldown boots, guys, just like I said for your queue, cooldown is so important on Nasus. Your auto attacks aren't really a big part of your kit. It's all about that siphoning strike and getting it on a lower cooldown as possible. Now make sure to follow your Divine Sunderer with really what you need. You can go Steris Gauge, Frozen Heart, Gargoyle, Stoneplate. So just think about the big threats on the enemy team and what you have to build to nullify these. And this rune page revolving around fleet footwork, this gives you the sustain and actual movement speed, which is really useful in the lane to survive and get to that mid to late game. But also make sure, guys, in your minor runes to take cooldown as the first minor rune, and then follow this up with magic resist or armor depending on your matchup. Now the last top lane champion, guys, I want to recommend to you guys playing in bronze to platinum. I mean, you can make any of these picks work in any elo. This is going to be Wukong, and Wukong has been nerfed a lot this season, but here's the thing, guys, in lower elo, he still has one of the best win rates. And to be honest, it's not really surprising why. He still has an amazing kit, and it doesn't really matter how much Riot actually nerf Wukong, he has 2 ultimates. That's pretty much like playing a Beyblade on steroids. And just like those last 2 champions I mentioned, Camille and Nasus, you want to be going Divine Sunderer, but make sure to follow this up, guys, with a Black Cleaver. This gives you the movement speed and armor penetration you need, which is going to give you the stickiness and damage, and then you can follow this with a variety of items. Guardian's Angel, Death's Dance, Steris Gauge, again, just depends on who you're against. And also be sure to copy down this rune page on your screen now, by far the best. And if you are enjoying these types of videos, guys, where I let you know the best champions for certain elos, let me know by hitting that like button, and let's head to the mid lane. And let's talk about the 3 champions that I think are the best for carrying low elo games. Now the first of these is pretty obvious. This is Annie, and no LS didn't pay me to say this. Annie is easily one of the best low elo carry champions because she's so easy to play and she does so much damage and has such an impact in team fights. It really is the mid lane Malphite. But what lots of people kind of think when they first time Annie, guys, is they're like, oh, Annie, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna wait until level 6 so then I can get a 5-man ultimate off. Please realize that Annie's auto attack range is one of the highest, if not the highest, out of all the mid lane champions, and your laning phase is actually super strong and actually pretty scary to play against just because you outrange pretty much everyone and you have pretty much everything you want in a mid laner. You have wave clear, you have CC, you have kill potential. The only thing you don't really have is sustain, but who needs that in silver? Now in terms of your runes, guys, the Keystone Electrocute is by far the best. This gives you a lot more power in the laning phase and for those short trades that you're going to be going after. And as for the rest of the page, it's very standard. And for your items, just like Talia, we want to be pairing Sorcerer's Shoes with Luden's Tempest, and then after that, it really depends on who you're against. If you're against an AD assassin, by the way, getting an early Seekers is always good, and then building this into Azonya's Hourglass. But Voice Staff, Death Cap, these are going to be other items that you should definitely build. And just be sure, guys, that when you do play Annie, pay attention to that passive bar under your HP bar. The number of bars you have there resonate with your passive stacks, so when you've got 3 stacks, next time you use an ability, your stun is going to be ready. So it's actually a really good idea to sit on 3 stacks, use your E so you get to 4, and then go in with your Q, your W, or your ultimate. This is going to catch your opponents off guard and land you so many kills. Now the next mid laner you guys should definitely consider playing in 1121. This is Akshan. And you guys would be right, Akshan is nerfed in 1121, but here's the thing, guys. Yes, okay, your E, which is the ability you max first, the damage may be down at later ranks, but Akshan still boasts so many advantages and strengths that he's hard to pass up on. You can still revive your teammates, you still have the passive, which is giving you 2 auto attacks and a shield. When you're running press the attack, it's pretty much impossible to lose a trade, and your W gives you so much pressure in the mid to late game. Also, because low elo players just really struggle with invis in general, you are going to tear up these lower elos. Just be sure though, guys, to build a Mortal Shield Bow as your mythic. I know lots of people might go Kraken or Gale Force, but Shield Bow still gives you a good amount of damage, but it gives you the survivability and the sustain you kind of desperately need in this day and age. And follow this up with a Wit's End or Collector, depending if the enemy team has magic damage or not, and then for your third item, build a Ginsu's Rage Blade. This is really going to capitalize on your passive because you have 2 auto attacks instead of 1. And speaking of your passive as well, guys, when you play Akshan, the actual cooldown you see is going to be for your shield. So if you can time your trades in the mid lane around your shield, you are going to win pretty much every single duel you have with your opponent. But let's say you don't want to play Annie, you don't want to play Akshan, let's say say you want to play an assassin in the mid lane. Well, one of the most underpicked champions for whatever reason is Fizz. Despite him getting buffed to high heaven, with his E cooldown at rank 5 going down 2 seconds, he still isn't played nearly enough as he should be. He's got one of the best win rates, he's one of the best snowballing champions, and he's actually really easy to make work. And before you actually go and play Fizz, guys, what's going to help you a lot is actually what skill you take at level 1. So if you're against melee champions, taking your W is going to give you so much pressure because your W, believe it or not, actually does a lot of damage and gives you more attack range. But against these long range champions, taking your E first is going to minimize the damage they do to you. But in any case, make sure to max your E first. And as for your runes, I'm going to give you this page on your screen now, which a lot of the Korean Fizz mains are playing in high reload. With Presence of Mind, this gives you the mana regeneration you need, and Triumph as well, because there's so much CC in the game that can really cuck Fizz, you want all the mobility you can get. So this gives you the most amount of kill potential as possible. And as for your items, this is where it also gets really interesting. So I want you to run Luden's Tempest as your mythic with cooldown boots, and then Cosmic Drive as your second major item. The extra cooldown you get is so huge for Fizz because cooldowns for any assassin is just massive, and the movement speed allows you to get around the map and gap close to your opponents and one-shot them. Follow this up with a Zhonya's Hourglass and you are ready to unleash. Now finally, guys, we're going to head to the bot lane, and we're going to talk about the 4 champions I think you should consider playing in lower elo to carry your games. Now there are actually 3 supports here, and these 3 are Bard, Zilean, and Brand. Now Bard and Zilean are very similar because their roaming potential is so great, and this is why I love them. Because even if you lose your bot lane, you can still influence a game by roaming around the map, Bard with his portal, Zilean with his E, and you can just hard carry that way by having a presence over Summoner's Rift. But let's say you don't want to play like that. Let's say you want to play lane dominant support. Well, Brand is the ideal pick. You do so much damage, and to be honest, even if you miss your skill shots, all you have to do is press R and you will one-shot pretty much anyone. And the number of Brands I've seen even in high reload go like 0 and 10 and do the most damage, it's really annoying but insane at the same time. So for your support options, those are the 3 best champions for sure. And the only AD carry I'd really recommend, and this is only really because in lower elo AD carry is a lot harder role to carry on, the only champion I would recommend to play is Draven. This is because Draven is by far the strongest early game AD carry in the game, and with Halo Blades, if you get just 1 kill, you can end a game very quickly. Draven is really the only AD carry who can do this. A few might come close, but Draven is in a class of his own. Just make sure to start with a longsword, and depending on whether you have gold for a Noon Quiver or Serrated Dirk, build one of these and then build Immortal Shieldbow as your first major item. Then after this, you want to build Collector to really shred those squishy enemies, and then finish this with either Infinity Edge or Lord Dominic's Regards, depending on how much armor the enemy team has. And those are the 14 best carry champions, guys, for low elo. Let me know down below in the comments who you think is the best champion to play in anywhere from bronze to platinum rank. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future daily uploads, and also make sure to check out the GameLeap website on your way out, linked in the description and comment section. Our challenger players and coaches are uploading up to 20 videos a week, so do not miss out on that exclusive content. Make sure you sign up so you can achieve your rank goals this season. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been the Jizzle.